Hi, everyone. I am Carrie Little, your host of the Socially Savvy Agent over on my podcast and the host of Coffee with Carrie every Friday at 9:05 Central Time over on Instagram. And I am here with my twin sister.
I'm Mina Blazy, and I need to host a podcast. Like, that's probably something I should do. And currently, I'm in education. I'm a director in a small school district in Southern California, and I'm excited to have this conversation. So let's talk about it.
So, the goal of today's conversation is artificial intelligence and bias. So, what I figured I would do, since this is the sandbox that Mina plays in, I figured let's do this. Give us some history around, what bias is, and then let's talk about why there is bias in artificial intelligence.
Okay. So, because you know what, remember that presentation we did, Who Do You Choose to Be? And we talked about it, bias. And I pulled up those slides on purpose. And the reason why I pulled them up, one, because there's notes, but there's types of bias and there's some history of bias. And I don't know that I want to get too academic, but I wanted to say that, okay, I'm going to read this. Bias is how our minds streamline thinking so that we can quickly make sense of the world. Our brains are biologically designed to perform these quick judgments unconsciously. So, in early prehistory, this unconscious streamlining thinking was a form of protection against threats from the natural world. So, the reason why I'm saying that is because I want you to, when people are thinking about, let's just say they're walking down the street, it's typical, it's where they live, they know everybody in the neighborhood. So, you're fine when you walk down the street. You say, hi, how are you? Whatever it is you do. But now, once you take yourself and put yourself in a situation like, so when I moved from Illinois and I started and I walked in a new neighborhood, I'm very aware of my environment. So when I'm walking down the street and there's someone across the street, am creating this story in my head of what may happen, what could possibly happen, what I don't want to happen. So I'm on I am creating or pulling from my own knowledge to decide who this person is and what they're capable of. And that kind of bias is what we call implicit bias. It's in our head. And there's another kind of bias. It's called explicit bias. Implicit meaning inside in your head. And then explicit mean outside, like exit, to go out of. And that explicit bias might be when you verbally say something out loud. And this can be a scary point because some people will say things and you're like, oh, or like if somebody puts someone else down, they talk about maybe their size or their height or their color. That's kind of an explicit bias. Like you know that you have it. But typically we have
Do
bias.
they know that they have it, or are they just saying it out loud?
Okay, that's a good question. Um, we know they have it. We know they have it because they're saying it out loud because our biases can tend to control what we do. They could be good to help us because if I go to another country and I know they have wild animals on the loose wherever they are, I'm going to search into my head and go, no, I'm not walking down that street. So it's good to have bias to protect us, but it just depends on the situation. So I'm gonna let you ask some questions.
So now that you've kind of given us some basic insight, enough information for someone to understand what a bias could be. Back in November of 2022, we got this thing called ChatGPT, artificial intelligence. Now, we've been using artificial intelligence pre-ChatGPT, right? We've got Siri, we've got Alexa, we've got Google Home. We have all of these different functions that could be deemed as artificial
Or
intelligence.
speech to
Now,
text, like on your phone, you talk.
right. Yeah, artificial intelligence. And I'm in the real estate space. So for us, it's using images when we put a property on the multiple listing service and telling the system to figure out what the images are: front of the house, the back of the house, the living room, the dining room, the swimming pool. So we've been using artificial intelligence. And what we do know about AI is the first successful AI was like 1941, right? So AI has been around for a long time. Now, fast forward November 2022, Chat GPT. So talk about, when all of a sudden you have the ability, kind of like, well, I shouldn't even say kind of. When we wanted to know something, we would Google it. And then you'd get all of these different queries. You could see what could be out there. Now you have Chat GPT, you have Google Bard, you have Perplexity, you've got all of these different artificial intelligence tools that have pulled in all of this data, and it spits out what it thinks is correct. So um, talk about the what ChatGPT is, or AI tools like ChatGPT do, and how they're created.
Okay. Um, so ChatGPT, or generative pre-trained transformer, is created by a group of people that code it. So it's just like a website. Before we could do what we call drag and drop and make things pretty and just type right in it, they had something called coding, HTML. And you see that coding when you accidentally press a key on your computer and that information comes up on the right side.
Jibber jash
What?
jab, like
Yeah.
just
So
stuff.
that's
You
like
you right clicked by mistake.
yeah, you click something, you don't even know what it is. And then you can just kind of click on that X and make it go away. Well, somebody is coding the GPTs, the generative AI. Generative meaning it's generating something for you quickly, not quickly, whatever you want to think of. So the people behind it that are coding it are people like you and me, or are they? So when we code things, we are coding it based on our own personalities, our own information in our head. And so the people that are doing this are people that are engineers. And you can decide how many friends do you know that are engineers. Are they could be coding engineers, or they could be the ones that are they could be medical doctors that are telling and looking at the GPT output. Let me try to make this in a way that it's easy to understand. You get a bunch of people together that are looking at the output of what you tell ChatGPT. For example, if I talk into my phone and tell ChatGPT, create a recipe for me to make potato salad. Now you can run with that based on what TikTok says about potato salad. Well, the people that decided what potato salad is good is what's going to pop up. And I promise you, if you put it in, because I would like potato salad and make me a recipe for potato salad. And I kid you not, it added raisins. So that right there I didn't want raisins, but it decided for me what I wanted it to do. So you have a bunch of people that one code this system, this product, this platform. Then you have another group of people that come together. Just think about a think tank that comes together. And let's just pretend like they're all potato salad experts. They came together and they decided what the best recipe was, and they all decided and they said, well, that's a good recipe. So ChatGPT spit something out and they're like, no, that's not a good recipe. Add raisins. That's a good recipe. So when it spits it out, we're getting what someone else believes was a good recipe for potato salad. I'm laughing in my head right now, thinking about these people sitting at a round table as potato salad experts. So you can decide who those experts are. We can actually say, what if there are a group of people that are medical doctors that are looking at the GPT output, like, and saying that's wrong, that's not what happens. Now let's even go into real estate. It puts something out, like you ask it a question about real estate in Illinois and see if it'll give you the state law. And you just decide that, oh, it must be right. And you run with it. And then you find out that you can't post that online because you didn't identify yourself. But ChatGPT told you that you could. So the experts that are behind it, just assume there's not a bunch of real estate agents that are sitting around a round table that are the GPTs, are the trainers. And let's even argue now, from my perspective, a bunch of teachers. So
Mm-hmm.
just think about who's training and who's putting that output. So they are bringing their own background, their own knowledge, expertise, and yes, their bias into these platforms.
And what's interesting is, because I come from the real estate industry and I have conversations with real estate agents, and we cannot violate fair housing. We can't steer. We can't make there's decisions we have to help a client come up with on their own. Like they have to decide where they want to live, what cities they want to live in based on what they want for their family. I can't tell you where to move to. I can give you some insights on how to think and being consistent with every client based on the information they provide, but I can't have a bias to tell them where they should live. And so what's interesting is there because ChatGPT, again, Google Bard, it could be Perplexity. If you ask it a question about real estate, could you easily violate fair housing? You could. Could you violate the licensing act in that state? Could you violate the code of ethics? Because the licensing acts want us to protect the consumer. But when I ask ChatGPT a question, I might not even ask the question in a way that is protecting the consumer because again, it was built by someone that may not be an expert in real estate and they could be pulling the information as they're building it because that's what I envision. Oh, I'll take this, or I'll take this, or I'll take this and dump it in and then decide to use it. And why everyone is moving so quickly to update license law because there's even a rewrite in my state. I'm in Illinois, trying to make sure we're not violating copyright issues and to make sure that if we're writing even a listing description that we are not violating some type of license law or even fair housing because you could easily violate someone with that that might have, and correct me if I'm wrong, a disability or and we can't even put in walk to, hop, skip, and a jump, and we can't put in words that deem walking in our multiple listing service. So you have to pause. And if you're asking ChatGPT to write listing remarks and you just copy, cut, and paste, you could easily violate the licensing act or the multiple listing service rule. So when you say bias, I mean, there's so many things that we have to pause and think about and actually take a second to read. So if you are using AI, you need to slow down and read.
And also know the law because there's an assumption that the GPTs are going to give you right information. And let's go back to 1994 and 95 with search engines. Google, as one of my kids would tell me, ask the googly. Or when you're not feeling well, I have another child that she's like, oh my gosh, I had to ask Dr. Google and now I'm dying of a heart attack. That's because these are this is also an AI platform. It is generating something for you. Google is a generative AI. It's generating a list of things that puts stuff out for you, and you have to choose which one you want. And you know who you are when you pick the one that fits what you want. And sometimes we don't vet it, just like the search engines, or even we'll even say Google Scholar, because that's supposed to be peer reviewed. Just because somebody wrote it doesn't mean it's giving you all the knowledge. They're giving you research. So GPTs, all that knowledge that it's pulling from, like all these different mainframes. I mean, I picture like these huge things, but they probably are smaller than I think. And they're pulling in knowledge. And because you said that about the biases and thinking about people with disabilities, I decided to type something in ChatGPT just now. And, in the United States, we can't push our belief systems on children. But what we can do is we can teach them about having conversations with whatever topic it is. For example, in sixth grade in the state of California, they teach world religion, and it's a state standard. So I asked ChatGPT, write me a lesson plan for sixth grade for religion in the state of California. And it actually said, I want you to hear this. Creating a lesson plan on religion and for grade 6 in California requires careful attention to neutrality and inclusivity. So but as an educator, I would have known, okay, and then it listed a bunch of religions and it created it. So you as a real estate agent, if you're a real estate agent or a teacher, you still need to vet it. You still need to have professional development, continuing ed courses so that you know what the law is. And you also have a responsibility to do the research to understand that the stuff that you're getting isn't always right. It's like when you have another adult in your family that gives you this information, and because they told you, it must be right. Children learn that. So they learn their biases from their parents. Because of that, they take that belief with them, they carry it with them, and then they through their school ages, they through their life, through their job, through their college, and they portray that belief wherever they are. And that's what happens to the coding. So, as an educator, all I'm thinking about is we need to get this in front of students so that when they leave high school and college, we have a group of very diverse people that can do the coding for GPT, and not just the typical people that you may have in your minds that's coding it, so that there is a diversity, equity, and inclusion, and more people have a voice. And I don't mean just race, I mean gender. Like you have to think about my voice is going to be different than a male voice, for example, or somebody in another state or another country for that matter.
What's
Thoughts?
interesting is because I came over to Discord to look to put in, imagine a real estate agent working in a coffee shop on a sunny day. And so, of course, it decided what a real estate agent looks like.
What does it look? What does a real estate agent look like?
Um, Female, long hair.
What was it? What was the prompt? Imagine a
I
real
just said,
estate agent
imagine a real estate agent
on a sunny day.
working in a coffee shop on a sunny day. I got four options. Um, Two men, two women, both you know, well, I think the one man is Asian, that's what it appears to be. And then white man working Asian female, white female. And typically, whenever I do this, I have to work really hard to get a diverse group. And if I ever get someone of darker complexion, that it's depicted a little rough. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm still not saying that right. But
No,
just,
the truth is that even so, I threw in ChatGPT yours, and I almost want to share my screen. Oh my gosh.
no, we can share it
Um,
another day. We can come
yeah,
back
no, but
and
I'm not
actually
going
do.
to, but I want you to hear this. It is everybody in there. It's looks like a Starbucks or like your mom and pop coffee shop. It's very eloquent. There is a lady in the background. She isn't a typical slim person. There's a gentleman at like the coffee bar standing there, like getting the creamer, and then a gentleman with a nice round white cup with the cute swirl that's sitting there like this,
Wait
looking
a minute,
very
I can't.
serious, like really working. They're all of the Eurocentric.
Oh,
Um,
you knew the right terms. I just was like, how do I say all this? So here, let me
yeah.
say this before we end. What are some key takeaways for anyone in any industry, whether you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, real estate industry, educator, in the administrative world, in the education space, or you just work for a corporation? Maybe you're in public relations, or maybe even you're a writer. Like, what are some key takeaways for anyone that is going to use AI, and what should they understand with bias when it comes to bias?
Um, First of all, when you come across bias and you have a feeling or emotion about it, like anger or sad or frustrated or disgust, kind of like the movie Inside Out, I guess, um, just sit in it and then ask yourself why you feel that way. Because typically, what people do is they immediately want to attack someone else and blame them. Say, why do I feel like this? Why does this bother me? If it bothers you. Like, quite honestly, this is a great photo. I would want to use it. It doesn't bother me. However, if I knew that I was looking for somebody that looked like me, it might frustrate me a little bit. Um, but what can I do about it? I can't change this photo other than change the prompt. So you have to consider how do you feel about the bias that may be happening to you? And then when other people have bias, how do you feel again? Like, you don't have to respond to the bias, even with generative AI or GPT. You have to decide, okay, I need to, first of all, every time you use a GPT, Copilot, Perplexity, Bing, Bard is now Gemini, things like that, you you are training it too. So you can tell it, you just keep telling it, that's not very equitable. Let me tell you why. Do this, this, and this. We're not going to change the world overnight. However, the world can change over time. Sounds something like what you say. So we just have to be cognizant of the biases that come out and just kind of work with it and know that it's there, and then think about how you feel about it, and you don't have to respond to it right away.
Okay, I like that. So we just want to challenge all of you, if you, especially if you're in my market, make sure, you go to mainstreetrealtors.com to listen to a coffee and conversations with Dr. Mina Blazy on AI and bias on April
24th.
25th at
Fifth,
9
sorry.
a.m. at 9 a.m. Central Time. So Main Street Realtors. If you missed the conversation, I am pretty sure you can see the replay over on Main Street Realtors Facebook page where it will be streamed. I am Carrie Little. Thanks for listening to us today. And
I'm Dr. Mina Blazy, and thank you. Yes, thanks for listening to us, and please come back often.